Alright, y'all. I just thought to give this another try because I just kind of went off on two or three branches of what I was talking about earlier. And for a while there, my phone got hot and overheated, so I had to stop for a little bit. But anyway, things is depression and loneliness is not easy. I've been depressed before. Uh, I still get depressed. It's just one of those things that happens. But loneliness, I think, is because I thought it might have been because my wife was divorcing me or whatever, which I don't care about that because I hadn't seen her so long. I have no. There was there was a time when I wanted to get back with her and stuff, and but after she got out of prison, but after seeing how she really was and all those things, I just like, no, I'm not going to do it. I was going to divorce her at one point while she was still in prison, but that would have been harder on her than I wanted it to be. And so I told the lawyer, I said, we're not going to do that. And so I got refunded half of my stuff back, half of my payment out back. Um, so he wanted to charge her child support. I'm like, how can we do that? And she's in prison. Oh, do that. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to her. That's not right. And so here it is now. She's divorcing me. So she was at the courthouse or whatever it is. I mean, she has to be at the courthouse or wherever that is this coming Wednesday. And we're supposed to have a final hearing. We had one a couple of weeks ago, and the judge, it was like, well, how about do this separation for him? Forget about that. We'll have a final hearing because we both don't want to get with each other and talk about it. We don't want to rehash it. We just want it to be done with and in. It's something that she engaged in. I didn't do it because when I last did it, I was like, look, I'm not going to do that because it's wrong. And I told the judge that. I said I found out that it was not the right thing to do. I didn't want to put her in a bind when she got out of prison, so I decided not to do it. I ended it, the getting a divorce thing, and because I didn't feel that was right. And my son was pretty young at the time, so I decided when my son got older or to where she got out of prison, then we go do that. But I said, like, at the time, I really ain't got the money to do it, and she engaged in it. Like, that's great. But what she got is hers. What I have is mine. And the judge's like, well, there's separation. Like, well, she don't want to meet me halfway, and I don't want to meet her halfway. So the judge's like, okay, well, we'll have a final hearing on the 25th, and we'll go from there. Well, hopefully I don't have to pay anything because I ain't the one to engage into the I ain't the one that started the divorce proceedings. She did, so that should be on her, not me. But we don't have anything together, and the judge is like, well, not the judge, more like the magistrate. The judge is the one that's over the magistrate. And so anyway, I'm supposed to have the hearing on the 25th, which is Wednesday. And it just so happens they started cutting my hours back. And I got called in tonight anyway, so that's a good thing. That helps. So, I don't get why they, I just don't, that's pretty weird. But anyway, I tell you, I have been depressed and I've been lonely, But I know that 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 I know the Lord is with me. He's in all these things, all these situations. And from time to time, I feel like He's teaching me something here. Not only do I have to not rely on a woman to make me happy, but I can rely on Him for all eternal happiness. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard in a way, but at the same time too, it's pretty easy. It's hard to deal with those fleshly desires to have a companionship with a woman. But nowadays, and I was talking with this about the supervisor, one of the supervisors. He does the thing at the desk while we do the screening. And there's really pretty much slim pickings out there. There's slim pickings. I mean, there might be a good woman out there who was like, say, like Princess Diana. She was humble, sweet, kind, nurturing. Yeah, she had a few of her own issues and problems. I mean, heck, my thing was looking for someone who was like her when I was younger, you know. And I thought I found a few of them, like her, very similar to her. But go to find out, nobody's perfect. They might have had the same haircut a time or two, but it wasn't her, you know. And so I guess in a way, in my search, I don't know if this affected me because my wife was divorcing me or whatever, but here in the last week or two, about a month or so, it just seems like I've just kind of been depressed. And I'm like, why am I depressed? Why am my wife's divorcing me? And why am I depressed? I've been depressed for a long time. But it just seems like more so because of this. And really, in my heart of hearts, I'm glad. I'm glad she's moving on. But at the same time, too, it's just like, dang, nobody wants me. You know, and I've been here, this coming August 20th, me and my son will have been here 17 years. 17 years in Tennessee. Since he's about 4 or 5 years old. He moved from South Carolina. And I look back on that, like, wow, that's a long time. You know, and I cannot believe it's been that long, but it has. And, you know, it's like nothing's really changed. You know, I went to go divorce my wife, and I changed my mind, didn't go through with it. Because like I said, the lawyer wanted to do this, that, and the other. And then, and now she wants to divorce me, which I'm ecstatic about, really, to tell you the truth. But like I said, I ain't gonna pay no darn fees, that's on her. Like I said, I plan not to pay any fees. But, anyway, we've gotten to a point now, I've gotten to a point where I really would like or desire to find that special somebody in my life, you know, and find that someone I can trust and can trust me. And that would kind of just cinch the deal for me and for them, hopefully, that, you know, living out the rest of our years, we have somebody, we have each other, you know. And but it doesn't seem that way, though. It doesn't seem like there's that right person out there for me who are like, it's like that Proverbs 31 kind of wife. It just doesn't seem that way. Because I've dated girls who seemed like they would be that Proverbs 31. Turn out they wouldn't. I've dated a woman and she had 2 kids. Go to find out she messed around with my dad before that. I had no idea. And whenever I found out, I was just determined to put her away quietly. And go to find out, she just like, oh, please don't leave me, and the kids love you so much. You know. And before all that, though, our relationship kind of got really strained, I guess. And there were a few times in that relationship I was really selfish. Made it all about me. And looking back now, I can say that. You know, I got her to buy me stuff. You know, I was into comic books. Got her buy me a whole series of 2 or 3 years worth of comic books because I wanted to know what happened with Superman and whenever he died and all that stuff. 92, 93, 94, you know. So she bought me all those things, and a relationship ended and all that stuff. I was a kid. I was acting 25, 26. I was still acting like a freaking kid. And so eventually what I did was, after the relationship ended, I took those comic books to her house and left them for her kids because I felt like that's what I owed her back, even though she kind of screwed around on me. But she screwed around on me. She probably screwed around on me. I didn't know it, but she definitely did between me and my dad. Between my dad, my mom knew, but my mom didn't tell me because my dad told her, and I wish he would have told her. And when I confronted my dad about it, I didn't really confront him. I asked him about it. He said, "I know, son. I'm sorry. If you want to hit me, go ahead." I said, "Dad, why would I do that? You're my dad. Why would I hit you?" I said, I'm just hoping next time, if I get any other person in my life, would you freaking tell me what the hell's going on?" And so, like, not long after that, I started dating this other girl. She had a long blonde hair, young, very shy, bashful. And she was doing stuff in chicken houses, opening chicken houses. Her mom and dad were did stuff in chicken houses for a doctor that owned them. And so anyway, it's weird though, because later on, that same doctor would deliver my son. It's strange how things are tied all together, you know. And so we dated for a while and everything, and I got really emotionally attached to her. I kind of almost lived out a lot of my fantasies on her. And, you know, she wasn't really into all that stuff. But, you know, I really did love her, cared about her and stuff. But, you know, and eventually that ended because she wanted to go to somebody else. I'm like, okay, fine. And that was the same time, matter of fact, talking about Princess Diana, that she died, supposedly in a car wreck. Supposedly. And so anyway, that was kind of hard because I really liked watching her. She's just a beautiful lady. And I've been delving, if you hadn't seen my rest of my videos, I'm like, what would it be like if she had a daughter or something like that, and her daughter had a daughter, all that other stuff. And anyway, being lonely, stuff like that, being depressed, get your head in spaces probably you wouldn't want it to go. You know, I don't want to be like that. But at the same time too, you know, that's like where I'm going. So, and I'm trying not to go that way because like I said, I know. The Lord is my comfort. He is my shield. He is my protection. He is the one that gives me my strength. So, but sometimes we get so entangled in this world, this system of things, we forget about that when the world gets more appeasing than the things of the Word of God. Because it's what we can see with our eyes. We want signs and miracles, kind of like the Jews. Not what we can see with our heart. You know what I mean? So I think that was the same with me. And like with my wife, a few years after dating this girl, like I said, I always had this person on the back burner. And she, since 93, she had always been my friend and everything. And we'd done things together, went and house sit. And we kind of did things together until I met my wife. Because it just seemed like every time we went to do something other, she really never did want to commit to anything. Her mom and dad were really, I don't know the words, skeptical of me in a way. Even after that, we talked. And I called her, talked to her a couple of times. She said, aren't you married? You don't even talk to her, you're married. Well, we're friends, sir. You know. And it's like, it ain't got nothing to do with being married. But I guess in a way, before I got married, the guy kind of liked me. But after that, he didn't really like me too much. But anyway, I'm not going to say too much on that. You might watch. Oh yeah, definitely. But anyway, what was it? I met my wife in the IGA about 2001. About this time, 2001, July, August, something like that, 2001. And this, of course, was a couple months before the World Trade Center, got bombed or whatever. Got destroyed 9/11. And so anyway, just so happens her stepfather, her adoptive father, really possessive. He was the brother of my stepmother. My dad knew him too. Oh my gosh. So my dad knew all about that family. And he warned me afterwards. My grandfather, my step-grandfather, which I consider my grandfather, he even warned me because he knew some things about certain people. And probably things that no other people knew about him. But he knew things about people. And so anyway, my dad told me, he said, son, she's probably bad news. I didn't listen, but I do recall a couple of times whenever I was younger, I went with my stepmom to her mother's house, and this little blonde-headed little feisty little child and her mama was there. And just so happens her mama was the boss of my girlfriends. She was the boss of my girlfriend, the one with the 2 kids. How about that? So everything got tied in together. Not the one, the middle girlfriend, she's the one with the long blonde hair. She wasn't involved in that stuff. But my girlfriend with the 2 kids, she worked for, her boss was my wife's mother. So, how about that? So about 4 or 5 years later, here we are, like, oh, wait a minute, I know you, oh yeah, I know you too. I know your daddy, I know, oh crap, and so I went that one bit that my daddy fooled around with a lot of people. Because that's just the way he was when he was younger. But anyway, I met my wife at the IGA, and I was working right down a couple stores down from her. I was doing furniture delivery, and I remember very distinctly asking the Lord for a wife and a son. And I've done this on other videos before, I mentioned this, and not a lot, but I have. And so I feel like the Lord told me, okay, I'll give you a wife, I'll give you a son. But after 5 years' time, it'll come to nothing. That's all I felt like he told me. I didn't quite understand all that. And I remember feeling that and I remember thinking that. This is 2001. This is 24 years ago. 23, 24 years ago. So, think about that. So, anyway, what happened? Yeah, what happened? As time went on, that kind of became the case. 5 years. We got married in January 2002, not long after 9/11. And the first thing she had said, like, "Do you promise I'll obey?" She said afterwards, "Oh, I'm not going to obey." Just kidding, psych. We went down to the probate court and got married there. And we were walking up and everything. And the probate judge just thought it was so cute, and to where before she was just so she was really, I used to go there quite a bit and look up records and stuff. She was quiet and didn't say very much. But whenever we got married, she was like, "Oh, yeah." Like, wow, Cassie, you're really acting strange. Probate judge. But anyway, we got married and all that, and after we did that, things kind of ended up pretty weird. And on again, off again relationships. Seemed like her mom and dad was involved in everything we did. I kind of felt like I had my own royal mess, kind of like what talking about Princess Diana, what she was going through in a way. It's just so odd that my mother-in-law and her had the same name, close to the very same name. But I talk to her sometime quite a bit. She's not doing great in health-wise and stuff. So we keep close and everything. Whereas before, I used to go to my wife's house, and boy, every time I come there, they have me a plate of food, boy. But things happen, and next thing you know, this, that, and the other happened. You know, a little bit of anger and frustration. And then eventually her adoptive father died. And I get told while she's in prison that, you know, he did this, her mother allowed it, this, that, and the other. She's resentful toward her mother, this, that, and the other. And our on again, off again relationship was based on what she went through and stuff like that. What it seems like, kind of like her mama and dad's fault, her stepfather's fault. So, you know. And there were times when I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to kind of get back together with her and stuff, but it just eventually, I knew it really was going anywhere. And so, like with, I compare this to other thing. Oh yeah, definitely. Be positive. That's the whole point of making this video. That's, even though it says something differently. Trying to be positive about everything. I'm 53 years old, you know, and I've been going this long without a woman in my life. Because I made a choice to move to Tennessee when I was 36 years old. And I've been here since 17 years, almost 17 years. Since my son was 4 or 5 years old. He's 22 now. And so, haven't met anybody, and decided in a way in the back of my mind that until I divorced my wife, or if it's something that came up like that, or she died, until I die, I was going to stay single. You know, single even though I was still married. And I've seen some people, you know, my mom tried to hook me up with this one girl one time. I'm like, yeah, nah. But I think too, there are a lot of women out there today that they don't have that soft, tender heart, that humility, like, you know, some of the people I've dated. But I've always wanted, there's this one girl, and she's a woman now, of course, and she's got grandchildren. Back when I was in 3rd grade, her name was, not going to tell you. But I've always liked her and stuff. She was very sweet, very kind. And she was the first one, I think she's the one I modeled every other girl I wanted to have after her. And later on, it would be almost also after Princess Diana. And so, this one girl, boy, she got this one guy and everything, and they had a daughter, and another guy, they had a daughter. And she lives in North Carolina now. And every once in a while I'll message her, and she'll call me Thomas. I'll call her by her name, and even though she knows my name is Butch. And I think I talked about it in one of the other videos. Hey Mike, how you doing? But anyway, it just feels like I'm just really in that mood here at 53 years old, and it just seems like I just have nobody. I mean, I have my son, I have my Lord and Savior, but to have a relationship with somebody, they don't have to be exactly perfect, but golly, you see women these days, they got tattoos all over them, they vape, and all that stuff. And it seems like whenever I started dating my wife, she wasn't like that. But eventually, just like the other two before her, she started doing that. I mean, smoking, or not that she wasn't already smoking, my wife, but I just didn't see it. We went out together on dates. I mean, she was beautiful, y'all. My wife, she was beautiful. She had that, like I said, that Princess Diana pixie mullet type haircut with the shag, the feathered shag, blonde hair, or sandy blonde hair. My wife almost featured, looked like Princess Diana, but just a little bit more chunkier. And so that's what really attracted me to her. Not that she looked so much like Princess Diana, but the way she carried herself, the way she was sweet and lovable. But then I started seeing things that like proved otherwise, but I always felt like I was already in it. And so we started doing things together more, and I started doing things before marriage that I shouldn't have done. Then eventually we got married and everything, and that kind of turned upside down in a way. But at the same time too, this was a person that I asked the Lord for, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have my son. And I feel like looking back, and I'm talking about Princess Diana, I feel like looking back that it was the same thing with her. Maybe it wasn't the one that Charles wanted, but maybe it just so happens too, yesterday was William's birthday. He was June 21st, 1982, was it? So he's 43 years old, the future king of England. A happy past birthday to him. So maybe that she wasn't the one that I wanted, but that's the one that God chose for me because of my son. It wasn't so much about, but in a way too, I think it was, because God loves everybody. God loves my wife, God loves you, God loves me. But as those come to him in faith, trusting in Jesus Christ for his finished work, for the blood that he shed, trust in him. And that's what I have to do, continue to do, trust in him, even though when I feel lonely and depressed, depressed and lonely. And I realize that, because without him, I wouldn't have what I have. I wouldn't have a home, I wouldn't have a truck to get back and forth to work. And it just so happens that they reduced my hours to get this other person to come to work. I don't know why. I asked myself, look, if I've done something wrong, let me know. Well, it ain't about you done anything wrong. We just have to do this because this is what the branch manager put on us. And the branch manager has been cheating on some of people's pay stuff. So, I mean, golly, it's crazy. But anyway, one thing has led to another, and so tonight I get some extra hours coming in, so that's good. But next week I might not get those hours, so I'm kind of looking for something else to do, starting after tomorrow. So I don't know how that's all going to work out. And then on Wednesday, I got a final hearing with my wife. She'll be in court on the 25th, and I'll have to do a Zoom call. So kind of looking forward to getting that done and out of the way. But what I was saying though, it seems like my wife was the right person to be used to have my son. Just like it kind of feels like the same thing with Prince Charles and Diana. She was the right person to bring about Will and Harry. And it's sad that they kind of at each other's throats. I would hope they would be more like their mother and more humble and be more embraceful. But for me, myself personally, that's like what I want to find in my life, is somebody who's who was a lot like her, Princess Diana. Oh, sorry, I fell over as I sat down. Somebody without all that real world experience, as I think that she had. And you can see some of the things on videos and stuff like that, and reading messages that Diana, she was just a young lady that was, I don't know if it's naive or whatever, she was bashful, shy. I And I have met some ladies like that. I met girls like that. I met women like that, but they didn't stay that way. And as far as dating them and stuff, but I have met people like that who are actually just true, down to earth, loving, compassionate, kind, without tattoos all over their body, and didn't smoke. I appreciate that, Mike. But there are not a lot of people out here like that anymore. And that's one thing that I think that was the first thing I wanted from the Lord, as that kind of wife that would lead to a godly son. My son's a godly young man. He's got his opinions on certain things, and then some of them were influenced by me, and others by other people. But I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful. I'm very thankful. I'm thankful to my wife that she gave birth to a son, a young man that loves the Lord. And I care for her. I love her very much. But she wants to move on with her life, and I think she should. But at the same time, somehow or another, whether I realize it or not, it has affected me. And I don't know why. I don't want it to affect me or her decision to move on. I want her to move on. I want her to be happy. And because I feel in my bones, and the deepest part of my bones, what the Lord told me all those years ago, 23, 24 years ago, that it would come to nothing. Our marriage would come to nothing. And it has come to nothing. But I didn't get the rest of the message because I guess the Lord didn't want me to get the rest of the message. The important thing is I had a wife. That wife gave me a son, just like he said he would do. And I don't know why I remember that so well. It probably might have went something a little bit different before. Whenever I felt like I got the message, because at the time I was in like an ecumenical church. I was in a Presbyterian church. I was reading a different version of the Bible. But now, looking back to what I know now, I was like, oh wow, all those roads led me to this point. And I was trying to, like I said, I was trying to divorce her at one point, but I didn't want what the lawyer was suggesting. I didn't want to do what he was suggesting. And so it seemed like that's kind of pretty much what he wanted to do. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. So he gave me part of my refund back. He gave me a refund back, part of it anyway. So, and I used that to buy her some stuff and all that and the other. But still, she wasn't satisfied. She was never satisfied. And now she's pretty narcissistic about a lot of stuff. She's narcissistic about a lot of stuff. She's narcissistic. It's all about her. She acts one way and then she does nothing else. I mean, just whenever the judge told her she couldn't record things, she tried to laugh it off. Like, oh, yes, I am. And she even told the judge she was in jail for 17 years. I'm like, good. I ain't got to brag. I ain't got to drag it up. I ain't got to rehash that. So hopefully the judge will see it in her favor just as well as mine, that she was like, look, I was in jail for 17 years, so we didn't have nothing together. We didn't have nothing together before that either, because we lived on her mom and dad's property, her stepdad's property, her adopted father's property. And we broke up several times and got back together. And then she tried to accuse me of criminal domestic violence. And what it was, her boyfriend hurt her and everything, and she blamed it on me, even though there were two witnesses there. And then after that, after I went, and even before I had to go to court on that, I was trying to help her out. And she lost custody of our son, and he stayed with me. And they were giving me her back child support from her and giving it to me afterwards. So that shows you there. Even when she went to jail, she decided she was going to try to take a trip to Ohio and got herself put in prison for doing drugs. She was stealing somebody. Before she even left, I went and got my car. She was planning to take my car to Ohio because she pretty much acted like she threw the. I was giving her a ride home. She acted like she threw the keys out, and then she tricked me right there in front of my uncle's house. As a matter of fact, in front of my uncle's, my dad's brother's house, and it was weird how she did it. But ended up tearing up the transmission too at the same time. So I had to get that fixed after she went to prison, as she went to jail in Ohio. But it was ironic. It was weird though. It's like the Lord had his hand in all that, because when she did that crap, and when she did what she did to me, eventually the judge saw right through it. He saw right through it. and she didn't show up or whatever, and I was trying to help her out, even though she tried to mess me up. I was trying to help her out. Even though she meant bad things for me, and she couldn't think straight or whatever it was all the stuff running through her head and whatever it was, drugs or whatever. Even though she tried to do bad things to me, I helped her out. And then she helped herself with trying to help her get in Ohio and do drugs and all that stuff, and got herself arrested and put in jail for 17 years. But see, the Lord still had his hand in that. He had his hand on me whenever I went to jail for a night. He had his hand on, even had his hand on her. Because it was the right thing for her to go through, because what evil she meant toward me got her back on her. But hopefully, I was hoping and praying that through all this stuff, my wife will learn her lesson. But it seems like now she still hasn't learned anything. She's narcissistic. She don't want to talk to me or whatever. I mean, the judge even advised that we can go, the magistrate advised that we can do like a separation form or something like that, both come together on it. But she didn't want to do that. And I didn't want to do that either. I just want to get it done over with. So now, like I said, we're having this thing on Wednesday, and so it's supposed to be the final hearing. And so I'm like, hey, do your thing. Go on wherever you want to go. So it's not really affecting my son too much. My son doesn't speak to his mother doesn't speak to him, and there was one thing in the letter that I think he read, and I really didn't want him to read that she pretty much saying that if things are on her terms, then she don't want to talk to anybody or something like that. And it's something she read to her, that she wrote to her mom that he read or something. I forgot how it all went. But his mother is, my wife, she's just really she's in her own world. But as far as depression and loneliness and all that other stuff, it ain't for her. It ain't a longing and desire to get back with her. It's the longing and desiring to get that perfect woman, or the near perfect woman as possible. But in this day and age, that's slim pickings. You know what I mean? It's just really slim, because it's like we're at work, and I was talking to this with a desk supervisor and another fellow. All you see nowadays is people coming in, vaping, tattoos. The ego is like, I'm a queen, I deserve this, I deserve that. You don't see any kind of humility. You don't see any kind of person out here these days that is loving, kind, affectionate, that does things. I mean, you do, but at first glance, they have all these other things, so you can't really see beyond what the tattoos say or whatever. But I mean, I know a couple who are very similar to that, like over at Waffle House. But and it's not like smoking is a turnoff for me. I've dated most everybody I dated smoked, but that's not an automatic turnoff. It's just something I prefer to not do, because it's their health too. It's killing them, And I want to, like a wife or a woman who's concerned about her health, and just as much as I'm concerned about her, she would be concerned about mine. So, and don't have all that stuff plated all over. It's not about the plaited hair. It's not about this, the Bible says. It's not about all these things that dress the woman up. Because I'm looking back at Diana, and look how she came. She came with a shaggy, feathered haircut, and she got married that way. She didn't go crazy on her hair or whatever. She made it simple. And then even at that, she took the royal family by storm. Boy, she did her own thing after a while. She became independent, and she did it with humility and kindness and affection. And she brought like so many people to her inner circle. And there's so many people who are just love her for kindness, humility, and grace. A common woman, a commoner, became a true princess and a queen of people's hearts. And that's the kind of person that I've always wanted. Even with what I thought to be my proto-girlfriend, which wasn't even my girlfriend, and I just kind of knew her. She was very similar to that, but she had her own problems and issues too. And like I said, we talk every once in a while, and this was years ago, 40-some plus years ago. But that was always been my desire, to have somebody like that. And it feels like now getting into this age that I'm in, 53 years old, it seems like I'll never have that, you know. But and it seems like I want that more than my relationship with the Lord, and really that's not the case. But it just, somebody might mistake it as that. I could mistake it as that. But I just kind of got a feeling in my heart of hearts that me and my wife ain't ever gonna work things out, because Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, is the final hearing, and then the judge signs off. Evidently, the judge will sign off on it. So, as I said, I'm happy about that for her, if that's what she wants, and I'm happy that I don't have to have. Well, she decided something else about keeping the last name of Holiday. So I'm like, okay, but that's not. There are a lot of people who last name is Holiday, but for her to be Mrs. whatever my name is, and I'm not going to tell you all my name, that's another story. So I'm glad about that for her. But you know, she's had a family name, she's had a adoptive name, and now she's got a name that's she's divorcing with. That's my last name. That her son's last name. And many other people who have that name. But anyway, here is pretty rare. Here in Tennessee, where I live at, the only holiday that I know of, I ain't never seen any other holidays. It's me, just me and my son. We're the only two holidays that are here. So anyway, it is what it is, as far as me and my wife's concerned. But like I said, it really does. It has been affecting me for close to 19 years now, by not truly having someone that I've been desiring for years and years and years. And I think King Charles now, he really didn't really know what he had until it was gone. And I watch all these movies, I watch these, like the shows like The Crown, and he's in there crying over the death of Diana. He should have been crying, because she was something. Boy, I tell you what, like, snap my fingers. I wish I would have had somebody like her in my life, who just came up, and with just her beauty, her humility, her grace, her style, just show the whole world, you know, that hey, you can come up as a commoner and leave out as a queen, you know. Just, you don't have to put tattoos all over yourself. You don't have to smoke cigarettes that look like you bad. You don't have to be like this Me Too movement kind of bull crap, showing yourself a strong woman or whatever. Diana did it like, she was like graceful, kind, compassionate, loving, sincere, merciful. She loved kids. That was the first thing she ever did. She taught kids. She was a teacher of children. Wow, I mean, she took care of them. That boy, Patrick Robertson, Mary Robertson's little boy, she took care of him whenever her and Charles were dating. This was 45 years ago. 45 years ago. And that young man is probably done grown up now, and he's probably got a wife and children, probably has grandchildren, I don't know. And hopefully and pray that they are a lot like, that wife of his is a lot like Diana. I've been trying to look that up and see how far it's gone. If that boy did grow up and they got him a wife like Diana, because from what I understand, they were in constant contact with each other. And Diana asked her to come and see her at the Kensington or whatever, but she never did, because she didn't understand that she was reaching out to people until she was gone. Diana had died, supposedly. But what if Diana was really out there? What if she's still really out there, but she's away from all the press and stuff, and she's seeing what's going on with all these people that are out here, still publishing her story, still making memes about her, still doing even AI stuff. I kind of like what I've been doing, you know, and all that and other. I don't know. Maybe it's the same for Michael Jackson. Maybe Michael Jackson didn't really die either. Maybe he's really out there. He's away from the press. He's away from that, you know. And maybe he does have contact with his kids. I don't know. Maybe both of them are really dead. But in either case, we're going to have to stand before the Lord one day and give an account for all our things that we've done in this life. So, you know, it's going to be the same for for my wife. It's going to be the same for me. It's going to be the same for your people, whoever you are, rather, with, and you yourself. You're going to have to stand before the Lord one day and give an account, whether for good or bad, and what you've done in this world and everything. We're going to have to give an account. And but it is so great, though. It's so great to see how the Lord uses people. And that's why I was talking to this guy about whenever he was coming out for work. We were sharing some stuff. It was so great how the Lord, even how he worked in Sarah and Abraham's life. And when he thought, well, oh my gosh, we got two sons. We got the heir of a bondwoman. He's going to be the heir. And nope, it's Isaac that was the heir. So what you might think is impossible is nothing's impossible for God. So it's the same with me as far as finding another woman, a wife. One's after Proverbs. One that doesn't smoke. One that ain't got tattoos. One that ain't like she's all that in a bag of chips. And ultra feminist or something like that. Who's kind and compassionate and sweet. Who's non-conventional. That's the word. Who's a maverick. Who doesn't flow with who doesn't go in with the flow, That's what I want. One that has the heart of God, who loves the Lord, who loves children, is compassionate, takes care of people, and makes it worthwhile taking care of her. That's what I'm looking for, and I think that's what Diana wanted. I know that's what Diana wanted, and so she fooled around a couple of times. Charles fooled around a couple of times. Charles fooled around probably more times than she did. Because that's what she wanted. That's what she was yearning for, compassion. She's as the thing says, she's a very tactile person. She liked hugs. She loved hugs. She loved to embrace people. That's why she did that with a lot of children. And I bet you can ask anybody that's coming up now who had some kind of contact with her, what they really meant to her, and what they meant to them, what she meant to them. And maybe somehow or another that person influenced them. She influenced them, rather, to grow up the way they did. Maybe she influenced that boy she used to nanny for to grow up in a way that he grew up. You never know, because some acts of compassion, kindness, and gentleness you might get from, it's like a superhero. You see your first superhero one time, and that determines how you grow up for the rest of your life. And like me, like Superman, man, I want to be like Superman. So it's the same thing with a royal princess, and you think of it like that. And I'm sure that a lot of people who were around at that time, 30, 40 years ago, who are not Generation X or kind of people and little Y generations, they had a contact with Diana and wow, man, I want to be like her. I want to be beautiful as she is. I want to be humble and kind and compassionate like she is. And maybe there are some out there, but it's hard to find here lately, because it seems like everybody nowadays is kind of in that Me Too type of stuff, ultra feminist, even getting to a point where they're women with women kind of thing, and guys with guys, and you don't really see a lot of that humility and that 80s type of stuff and that 90s type of stuff that you used to see, where people were a bit more kind and compassionate, loving and sincere. And she was one of those people that kind of led in that. And so now all you have is a bunch of, like me, hopelessly depressed, lonely guys that are waiting for that woman out there. And maybe there are women out there waiting for that kind of guy. But right now it just seems really hard. It's not easy. There might be hope yet. I know there always is hope, but at the end of all the things, end of all of this discussion, it all revolves around how the Lord puts somebody in your life. And the reason sometimes when He does put somebody in your life, He's asking you to wait for a reason, especially if you have trust and faith in Him and what Jesus did for your life. He's the reason why He's not put another woman in life, I guess, suppose because I'm still married to my wife, and He wanted to, and I always thought maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, to find somebody else while I'm still married. It's just my principle to actually go by. And so, but whenever we get divorced, I'm sure I'll be free to do whatever, but it's still, maybe in some ways it won't feel right, because if I ever do meet somebody who is like her, Diana, then I'd be the luckiest man in the world, and she'd be the luckiest woman in the world, I would hope. But nowadays it's all about things. It's about materials. It's what you have and what can be mine, and narcissism, and I'm a queen. I deserve this. I deserve that. That's most of what you see these days. You don't see the honest, sincere, that Proverbs 31. There was a Proverbs 30 or 31 woman. You don't see that these days. You just see greed and flirtationists, but and then like when you go to act on that and try to be nice to somebody, they take advantage of it and they say, "Oh, you're being a pervert," and stuff like that. I've tried to be nice to people and give them stuff and do stuff for them and be nice to them, just to be nice to them, and they're like, "Oh, they took it weird. They look at me weird, like I was sincere, like I affected them in a negative way, and I was just trying to be nice to them." And is it because I'm tall or because I'm what? I don't know, but some people you just can't do that with because they take the message, they take it the wrong way. And I don't know if that's the way they're raised, or I don't know what society is implanted in their head to social media. And that's what it's doing. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, all these social media outlets are really screwing people up. Even great guys for great women for great guys out there. It could be a great woman out there for a guy, or vice versa. But the more they delve into this, the more they get on these social networks and chatting and stuff, and they meet somebody, the next thing you know, it's not who they wanted it to be. I guess it depends on the heart too. But anyway, I'm gonna get on off here. Got to get on, get ready, go home, take a shower. Got called in tonight, so that's good. Get 8 more hours. Don't know, like I said earlier, I don't know if that's going to happen next week, but we'll see. And so, got to move on. But like I said, even though it's depressing and lonely and everything like that, I know God has a plan. Just like He had a plan for me 23, 24 years ago. And he told me I'd get a wife. I got a wife. It became nothing. That became nothing. It's still coming nothing. I'm getting divorced. And I have a son. I have a son. Somebody to carry my name. And so, and he carry God's word too, because he loves the Lord. He goes to church, and I think he did some preaching today. I think he did, or that's next Sunday. I can't remember. But anyway, it's a great thing. And so it's important to remember those promises that the Lord placed in your heart, what you feel like He said to you, and hold Him to it, because He'll do it. Especially when you read Authorized Version King James Bible, that really helps. All right, I'm getting off here. Take care. God bless.